can make it there. I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
Good morning. Good morning. It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, riding solo on this beautiful Sunday morning. On today's show, we're going to be hitting on yesterday's Giants victory. Now, yes, it's just a preseason game. That's not what I was worried about or paying attention to. But this gentleman right here in the picture, Abdul Carter, getting his first NFL game action, as did potential future quarterback of the franchise, Jackson Dart. I want to hit on their performances and how the Giants did overall against last year's AFC runner-up. And we're going to start it here. Abdul Carter, it's amazing. You know, I was very excited about this pick for a litany of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is that in recent time, the New York Football Giants have always been at their absolute best when they had three legitimate pass rushers on the edge. And right now you have Kayvon Thibodeau, who's in my opinion, a prove-it year. You got the big money contract opposite of him, Brian Burns, and now you have team control over Abdul Carter for the next few years, as he's, God willing, going to be playing Week 1 against Washington. Of course, you know you always hope that there's no injuries in the preseason, but in limited duty on his time on the field, definitely making his presence felt. You know, applying pressure to quarterback Josh Allen, who is a perennial MVP candidate in this league. He's actually the reigning league MVP right now. So, you know, Abdul Carter just giving Giant fans a glimpse of what he could be capable of. And the thing I love about this for Shane Bowen's defense is that he's truly a mismatch no matter where you put him. You can line him up on his hands. You can put him in the second layer, really applying pressure to any gap on the offensive line and not really knowing where he's going to be coming from. And, you know, the beauty of it is you can't double team everyone. You know, if you put too much attention on Burns, it leads to a solo matchup for Carter. If you try to get hands on each of them, Dexy might be able to do his thing in the middle, because let's not forget, we have a perennial all-pro defensive tackle in Dexter Lawrence. So Abdul Carter just looking the part, you know. It's a limited sample size, as I said, in the preseason, but so far so good with Abdul Carter. And, you know, this could be at honest peak the kind of person that can make a legitimate impact like great Giant defenders of the past, whether it be a Justin Tuck, Jason Pierre-Paul, Hall of Famer Michael Strahan, OCU Minora. And that's why the Giants got this guy, because he's a game changer, and he was the safest pick that early in the draft. I know some in the fan base wanted Shador Sanders, of course. I don't think anybody saw Shador dropping that far. He himself had a good first outing in the NFL preseason, and he's getting an opportunity out in Cleveland due to the injuries. And Cleveland has a lot of quarterbacks, but, you know, Dylan Gabriel dinged up, Very unlikely that Deshaun Watson will even see a field or even be a play another game for the Browns, possibly. So Shador definitely getting an opportunity out in Cleveland. Another positive that I really liked here, Marcus Embo out of Purdue. This guy's very versatile. He can play pretty much any line position on the field, offensive line. Got some action at tackle yesterday, and on a potential play where Buffalo was definitely getting into the visual of any quarterback throws for a couple of different plays, he was able to recover and just make sure that nothing is going on and that the thrower had the extra time. Um, I personally thought this guy could potentially be an interior lineman. But, in the preseason, you're going to try everything to see where guys fit best. On a negative, I don't think Evan Neal was very impressive. And, he's going to be in a position battle with Greg Van Roten. And right now, it's only, like I said, a short sample size. And we'll see, because this is really the last chance for Evan Neal to resurrect his NFL career. He was picked very high in his draft class, only a couple of picks behind Kayvon Thibodeau, but he just has not materialized into a trustworthy starter. And moving him to guard with the hopes that the game could slow down a little for him. This is his last stand, so to speak, with the New York Giants. But we'll see if he can make it. I personally think that Greg Van Roten probably has the edge to win that position, but time will tell. This is pretty cool. Turbo Miller with over 100 all-purpose yards. Now, this is a guy going to last year that was pretty much buried on the depth chart. But with the team looking to really phase out Devin Singletary as he lost starting duties to Tyrone Tracy after the first month of the season, and with the addition of Cam Scatabo, now, of course, Scatabo is nursing a hamstring injury right now, this gives Miller an opportunity. And he's as advertised. This dude is very fast, good set of hands, and definitely a guy that might be able to make the team, and not just make the team, but be a factor as one of the top three backs once Scatabo returns. Uh, I would not be the least bit surprised if the Giants move on from Devin Singletary. He had Buffalo ties with Coach Dable, but never really panned out last year. He had issues taking care of the football early in the season in Washington. Those issues continued. And wide receiver turned running back, the former Boilermaker, Tyrone Tracy, definitely took that job. But I think ultimately, if the Giants could have three running backs that all bring a different skill set, it would be a great thing for the team. And once again, also want to allude to the most recent, you know, success for the franchise. It's when they had three legitimate running backs going back to Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was really good, but always at least two. You want to take it back to the 90s. You had Hampton, you had O.J. Anderson. You also had Dave Meggett in the mix. Tiki Barber, Ron Dane, Thunder and Lightning. You had a little bit of a short period there towards the tail end of Tiki where Jacobs was his primary backup. Then you had Jacobs, Bradshaw, Ward. During the Saquon era, not really another viable guy. It was the Saquon show when he was back there. But encouraging, definitely encouraging. And this is the one I care about the most. Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito all throw touchdown passes. Russell Wilson in limited duty, 6 of 7 on his throws. But this is my thing right here, the most important thing. No Giant quarterback was sacked, and it's no secret that for the better part of a decade, the New York Giants have had so many issues on the offensive line. And I think I really believe that most people are encouraged with this initial game. we know that the defense is going to be legit, particularly the front seven. Deonte Banks, still concerned about him. Um, and, the new additions, Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo, those are guys that there's going to be some legitimate expectations. They got paid well. Paulson Adebo, really his first opportunity to be the number one corner on a team in the league. And, of course, Javon Holland, who had an injury-shortened season last year, but playing at a Pro Bowl level prior to with the Miami Dolphins, his previous team. So those are two guys that the Giants are going to be expecting a lot from, but not overly pleased with what I'm seeing from Deonte Banks early on. But I would say, all in all, a lot more positives than negatives for the Giants. And, you know, there's some contingent in our fan base that I've seen wants to see Jameis start over Russ. I honestly was surprised they brought in Russ when they got Jameis. But, whether it's Russ or whether it's Jameis, it is definitely a significant upgrade from former quarterback Daniel Jones. But barring a Pro Bowl caliber season, I do believe that Russell Wilson is a one and done. I mean, he is only a 1-year contract, where Jameis is in a situation where he's going to be the primary backup going into the year. And next year, it's set up for him to stay on as a backup slash mentor for young Jackson Dart. And I feel that both these guys are going to be mentors for Dart. Dart looks sharp. A lot of poise in the pocket. Didn't force too many throws. It's encouraging. The Giants may have very well got it right at the quarterback position. And when you consider that since the departure of Eli Manning from the league, retiring after the 2019 season, after he lost his job to Daniel Jones, it's just been poor quarterback play for the most part. Tommy DeVito showed some promise, but all in all, he's not the guy. Tyrod Taylor, serviceable, but not the long-term answer. And as I said, Jones was, let's call it what it was. It was a bust. It was a terrible pick from Dave Gettleman. So the future potentially looking bright. And, Giants open up the year against two teams that have two disgruntled stars. Terry McLaurin in Washington, Micah Parsons in Dallas. So it will be interesting to see if the Giants are able to pull a road upset in one of those two first games. But it's imperative that the Giants get off to a good start this year if they have hopes for the playoffs, because the New York Giants, whether it's fair or not, have the toughest schedule in the NFL. But personally, this particular year, I'm not looking at the record. I'm not worrying if this team is a playoff team this year. I want to see gradual growth and guys coming together. The investments that they made, whether they be via the draft, whether they be free agency, just guys growing together as a team, because I think year two of this Jackson Dart, Abdul Carter run is when the Giants should be serious about being a playoff team. If the Giants could somehow carve out a playoff berth this year, given how difficult their schedule is, that would be a phenomenal job from Dable, Shane, and co. Moving it along for a second, after my little tirade on Aaron Boone yesterday, maybe he heard me. I highly doubt it. However, Devin Williams did not see the field yesterday, did not see the mound in the Yankees 5-4 victory over the Houston Astros. And David Bednar showing some grit. Unfortunately, giving up the lead, then coming out for the next inning and shutting it down. He showed a lot of resolve. I don't think Williams would have been able to bounce back like that. But Bednar getting the dub on Old Timers Day. Unfortunate side note, Mariano Rivera tore his Achilles yesterday playing center field for the Yanks in the Old Timers game. But it was really cool seeing some of these guys coming back. One of the most underappreciated Yankees of all time, in my opinion, Mr. Bernie Williams. Just a guy that I cannot wrap my head around why he isn't in Cooperstown. Because during his peak years in the American League, I wholeheartedly believe, from an offensive value, the only center fielder during that era that was better than him in the American League was Ken Griffey Jr. His postseason numbers stand out. He's a former batting champion. He's a former League Series MVP. And I think you can make a logical argument that he was the best player on some of those dynasty teams, although Jeter gets most of the accolades. But most definitely a huge part of what the Yankees did. And, they always talk about the core four, but Bernie was the first guy there before Jorge, before Derek Jeter, before Pettit, before Mo, and a guy that unfortunately does get overlooked. He doesn't have the fifth ring like the other guys. His career was shortened due to injuries after the '06 season. They brought in Johnny Damon, but the Yankees don't do what they do in the '90s and early 2000s were it not for number 51. Kind of cool to see the Rocket Roger Clemens back in a Yankee uniform. Um, of course, he and others getting excluded from the Baseball Hall of Fame because of PED use. And of course, he has that, I don't know if you would call it iconic, but that menacing moment with Mike Piazza where he threw the bat in his direction, game one of the 2000 World Series. But it's a hypocrisy. I've said it so many times. Big Papi, first of all, send condolences out to Big Papi, who recently lost his father. I have no bad for Big Papi. One of the, in my opinion, good guys in the game. Great ambassador for the game. But make no mistake, it is part of the reason why Rob Manfred kind of gave him a get out of jail free card with his positive PED test. Now, granted, that info was supposed to stay quiet. He and I think about 99 to 110 other players were on a particular list. And that's my issue. You can't pick and choose who the good guys are. Andy Pettit going to Cooperstown. I think he's a phenomenal human, and he's a Yankee. But once again, the guy that got popped on the PEDs, you can't pick and choose. It's not the hall of nice guys. It's the hall of the greatest players that ever played your game. And Barry Bonds, a guy who I don't like, still belongs in the hall. I'm a Yankee fan, but I wasn't the biggest A-Rod fan when he was a Yankee because of some of the embarrassment he brought the organization. But that doesn't change the fact that his God-given talent should get him there. Barry Bonds was on his way to the Hall of Fame when he was still a small frame guy putting up phenomenal numbers for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I often, whenever this comes up, kind of go in, but I'm not a big fan of Rob Manfred, or his hypocrisies. Let them in. Put the transgressions on the plaques, and give them a chance at redemption. If these guys want to be stand up, and if these guys want to talk to kids about why it's just not the way, let them do it. Nobody would know better than someone who made the mistake. Give them a chance at redemption. Los Angeles Dodgers, shout out to them helping me hit my parlay yesterday as they crushed on the Toronto Blue Jays. Today it's Glasnow versus Lauer. I think the Dodgers will win today as well. Uh, Boston Red Sox losing a rare game as they've been red hot, but the Padres edged them out by a run yesterday. With Brian Bello on the mound for the Red Sox, I am looking at a Padre victory today as well. Can the Mets avoid a sweep? I'm going to say yes. I think today the Mets edge out the Brewers. And I like the Yankees today with ace Max Fried on the bump. Yankees got to start stringing some wins together though, because it's getting a little late. Of course, Philadelphia Phillies beating the Texas Rangers yesterday. Jacob deGrom pitched a hell of a game, although the Rangers came up short. So MLB full form, looking like it's going to go down to the final week for some of these wild card spots. I just can't believe the Milwaukee Brewers have the best record, the absolute best record in MLB. Who the hell saw that coming after the shellacking in the first 3 games of the season they took in the Bronx? But it's a long season. It's a very long season. Who do you guys like in the World Series based on what you're seeing right now? I myself feel that we might get a 93 rematch. I'm sticking to what I've been saying for a minute now. I'm going Phillies and Blue Jays. With the Blue Jays winning their third World Series title, they went back to back 92 and 93. Never could have three-peated because it was a strike year, but they wouldn't have anyway, as the best team in Canada that year was the now disbanded Montreal Expos, who are now the Washington Nationals. But and Manfred, that's another reason. That's another reason why you got to stop punishing these steroid guys and trying to forget them. They saved your sport because the strike almost killed it. Other things cooking on the brain. Got a little bit out for this, but definitely looking forward to the Crawford Canelo fight. I will be pulling for Crawford there. Just really disgusted that Canelo Alvarez continues to duck David Benavidez. I think it is terrible for the sport. It pisses me off on every layer. I understand that it's a business and it's a business of keeping yourself safe, healthy, and on top. But come on, Canelo, do better. Give back. Mayweather took a chance fighting you when you were a young lion. Do the right thing. Um, I think Canelo's going to win, but I'm rooting for Crawford. That's the best way to put that. Last thing before I get out of here. Talked to some friends yesterday, Dallas Cowboys fan, and one of my co-hosts, Mike Zappi, also spoke to the Mask, Quentin Moore, yesterday on their thoughts about Micah Parsons. I'm kind of on Zappi and Q's side with this. I believe that Micah, although not happy, will be a Cowboy. I just cannot see how Jerry Jones is going to let him go. Now, I did suggest something that I heard to friend of the show, Sylvia Sneed. Her nephew currently plays for the Tennessee Titans, former two-time Super Bowl champion with the Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed, one of the better defensive backs in the NFL today. But I mentioned to her about the trade that Mike Tannenbaum cooked up. Now, I usually don't agree with a lot of what the former Jet GM cooks up, but a potential trade that would send 2 first-rounders, a defensive starter, and running back James Cook to Dallas for Micah Parsons could be a good deal. Now, I personally don't think you're going to get 2 first-rounders, even though Micah is top 3 at what he does in the league. It's a lot of draft capital if you're also sending players. But the way I look at it, it could be potentially the missing piece that Buffalo needs to get over the hump and finally beat the Chiefs or whoever's in their way. I think the Chiefs are personally going to take a step back this year. And I'm not saying it has to be Buffalo as the trade partner. But the problem is that when you paid CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, it overcomplicates things on how or if you're going to be able to pay Micah. I also think the Cowboys made a mistake because when Micah was talking about that it was not about market value, that's when the Cowboy organization had to strike. But if you're making a player feel ignored and now his agent is getting involved, these negotiations could be very painful, whether you keep him or not. I understand both sides of the coin. Micah is a phenomenal player. However, the injury bug is no joke. A lot of injuries to some of the premier players, and Micah does have an injury history. I think the world of Micah as a player and a person, and I'm speaking totally unbiased because I can't stand the Dallas Cowboys, not quite as much as I can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think he's in the top 3 at what he does, but I still have him behind TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. I think that they are more productive, more dominant, and they are involved in more plays because there have been game plans drawn up where I think you do see Micah Parsons disappear from time to time. But get at me in the comments. Let me know how you think this Micah Parsons, why do I keep saying Parson? Micah Parsons thing is going to play out. New York Yankees If you win today, that's a winning streak. It has happened before, and anytime we could beat the Houston Astros is always a good day for me. I don't care if my cousin formerly played for them. Cousin via marriage, Cheo Cruz Sr., back when they were a National League team. He had a cup of coffee with the Yankees towards the end of his career. Hall of Very Good. Look at the player card. Pretty good numbers. Not quite a Hall of Famer, though. Until next time, I am Richie. I'm expecting our next show to more than likely be tomorrow, Monday. I'm going to have plenty of time, and I'm going to be setting up the AFC West preview. The Rashawn Slater injury, how bad will it affect the Los Angeles Chargers? Vegas Raiders, new talent. Genty with the quiet debut. I wouldn't take too much out of that. What has Pete Carroll got cooking for the Silver and Black? Denver Broncos, possibly the best defense in the league right now. Is Bo Nix going to continue on his phenomenal rookie campaign, or is there going to be a bit of a sophomore slump? I'm going with the former. I think he's going to have a damn good year. And the defending AFC champion, 3-time over, Kansas City Chiefs. Can they get back to the Super Bowl and win 3 of 4? I'm going to say no off the rip. As of right now, anyway. I think the Denver Broncos are the best team in that division. More than likely. Or maybe I'm just bluffing. But definitely make it a point to check out that show tomorrow. Football is back, folks. I could not be happier. My favorite time of the year, and I really enjoy doing these divisional previews because we love to revisit them when things add up. And, once I'm done with all the divisional previews, usually on the eve or 48 hours before that first Thursday game, I put out my entire standings for the season, my final standings for the season. And, I reference back to them when the year's over to see how I did. And if anybody wants to talk some smack to me about it. Make it a point to check out the V Mix, the Vicious Mix. My guy, Idris on live365.com. Really doing well in Europe with that station. So shouts out to him, Bosco from the Bronx. Also, check out the Casual Convo show every Wednesday from 8 to 10, as well as my man, Johnny Nast, on The Basement Show. If you haven't already, please make it a point, like, and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. And I'm going to go for now. Talk to all of you tomorrow. Have a great day.